afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to all our viewers. Today is an exciting day for me, specifically your flying coach. I am recording all the way from South Africa, and I'm very excited today that I have beautiful ladies that are joining us for this fantastic session. Today, we are going to be talking about showing up and tackling this issue, this topic that everyone really needs to know about. Why showing up? Showing up is a critical aspect of our wellness as human beings. As you know, Flying Coach is all about holistic wellness. So today we are basically going to be discussing what it means to actively engage in behaviors and practices that promote our overall well-being. More than anything, we are going to be tackling aspects of what it means to prioritize and take responsibility for your own physical, for your own mental, and for your own emotional health. With me today are ladies that I really hold dear in my heart, who have lived these aspects and will be imparting their experience to all of you in terms of how they themselves have lived the aspect of wellness. Without further ado, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be asking the ladies to introduce themselves, starting with a beautiful Zoleka Mashiyi, who is a very good friend of mine, and I started working with her at various institutions. She is a renowned HR practitioner and has started her own practice. So I'm not going to be wasting time and trying to introduce her. She is going to do us the honors of introducing who she is to all of us. Zolega, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Julie. Hello, everyone. As Julie has already introduced me, I'm an independent. I'm a founder of a company known as Ehlobo Consulting. My experience is over 17 years in this field, where I've been working with various institutions on change management. In fact, we call it enterprise change management. That means you are looking after everything that has to change, whether it's people, processes, or systems, and both in public and private sectors. I'm an accredited change manager with a strong consulting in human resources and organizational development. And I've been coaching throughout my life. However, I have recently also got my certification as a coach, and I'm certified under the Certified Coaching Alliance, specializing in life, leadership, and emotional intelligence. I work with organizations, especially when they are going through their transformational changes. I coach leaders and individuals as well. But what is important now is about employee engagement. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you very much, Zoe. We really appreciate that introduction, and we look forward to engaging with you further. Following there, I'm going to ask Miss Ketiwe Zulu, a very special lady who, by the way, has created a game called South African History Retold, Know Your Story. She also has written a book on the same one. But again, I'm not going to take away your shine, Ketiwe. Let me allow you to now introduce yourself. Over to you, Keti.
Thank you very much, Julie, and thank you for the opportunity to be here on this platform. My name is Ketiwe Zulu. I used my honors English writing background to write for various clients across various sectors, but my passion, as Julie has so eloquently said, lies in my project called South African History Retold, which is basically trying to bring alive the history that is slowly dying about our struggle icons of the past. And it is not politicized. It is across political parties across races, religions, creeds. And I have written, the first book was trying to explain who the people in the new street names are. The second book was on amazing women in history of South Africa that were part of the liberation movement from all walks of life, from professional to farmers. And I turned both the books into a board game because people learn differently. So I decided, if not read history, why not, as devastating as it was, why not play history for it to be remembered? Thank you, Tuli.
Fantastic, Katie. That's such an amazing introduction, South African history retold. And guys, I really do encourage you to get yourself the game in the book. Katie will give you her contact details towards the end of this conversation. The next lady, who is not a stranger to this platform, she has been here to talk about different aspects of wellness. Our own renowned Dr. Ella. Dr. Ella, let me allow you to introduce yourself.
Thanks so much, Tuli, for our flying coach, for the opportunity to grace your listeners and your viewers with our what we have to share. It's very, very important for us to share with each other so that we can grow. So they call me Dr. Ella Ford Mtetwa. I'm the founder of Elegance Wellness Boutique and Foundation. It's really an organization that's on a mission to building healthy communities across South Africa and across the globe. I'm a registered dietitian by profession, but I'm also a healthy lifestyle coach. They say that I'm also a motivational speaker. I don't know. We'll see. And I have marketing experience of over 25 years, working with multinationals that are local as well as global. But my biggest passion really is very much around holistic health and wellness for families, as well as corporate wellness. In fact, building resilience through corporate wellness, which is why it's very, very. I'm very honored to be part of this conversation today, Tuli, because it's very much at the heart of what I do, and it's very much at the heart of ensuring that we as individuals all show up at our best. There's a lot more that I do, but I think that's the core in terms of exactly what it is that I do.
Thank you very much, my friend, Dr. Ella. You're quite modest, Dr. Ella. She is a multi-award winner, and she's actually herself written a book, Perfect Landing, Wrong Airport. And that is a story of another time where we're going to talk more about exactly what it is that she was thinking about when she conceptualized this book. But today, as I indicated, this is more about talking about showing up. A lot of us as women suffer in that there are glass ceilings that are imposed upon us. But it's up to us to actually make sure that we ignore those glass ceilings and we are able to actually shatter them. And the only way that we'll be able to do that is by showing up. So this topic is for me is a very important and an exciting topic, and a topic that's very close to my heart, because had I not been able to show up in the past, I would definitely not be where I am today. So today we are going to be talking about 4 aspects of showing up. And the first one that I would like to tackle, that the ladies will then give us example of how they themselves have actually been able to tackle this aspect, which is going to help us in terms of ourselves being able to show us. So the first one that I would like to talk about, guys, is that whole thing around mental and emotional health. As women, we have a lot of things that bog us down. We carry this flag of being super women, yet deep down, we all suffer from mental issues that are not visible to the eye, and mental issues that eventually hinder our progress. And if we're not able to tackle these issues, they then have an impact on the next aspects of our lives, whether it's being mothers, whether it's being bosses at work, whether all aspects of our lives are affected by these. So what I would like to talk about, you guys have met either in your own personal lives or through the clients that you meet. You have been you have met different aspects of mental and emotional sicknesses from people. So what I'd like you to help me with is to just run me through what is it that you encounter, and what are your skills that you have imparted for yourselves, as well as for those clients that you deal with, to help them deal with issues of mental health. I'll start with you, Zoleka, in terms of what you have done in the aspects of your HR space. Over to you, Sisi.
Thank you, Tuli. You know about mental health when it comes to organizations and employees. We all know we've just experienced the pandemic, and it was not an easy period to navigate. However, as organizations, what I'm actually now talking to, especially the HR fraternity, is about how do we help people then navigate mental health. From my side first, let me just give you an example. When COVID hit us, I actually had a fair amount of looking at myself as to how do I show up when this thing is actually happening. You know, when you say you are actually now traveling a path that you've never even thought that you would. So it's affecting your emotion, your mental health, especially when it affects you personally. I've lost a number of family members, close friends, and to top it all, I was one of the victims. I would say I was a victim. However, I came out of the being triumphant. Why? Because as I was fighting through this, I told myself that I need to draw from my inner being as to who is Zoleka? What makes me the person I am today? What have I been doing before I was hit by this COVID? And that actually then says to us as people, we always underestimate our resilience and the skills that we've got. Because you'll find out, even with my clients, I tell them, draw strength within yourself. Don't expect people to come and help you or give you advice and everything. Advice, yes, is there. However, a lot of what we need to do comes from within. So that's what I would say, Tuli. And if you do that, which means you are able to even reflect, and we are able to actually check all these points that have brought you to where you are. We call that self-reflection. So you are able then to understand what type of help do you need. Sometimes you find out even what you are experiencing, you can navigate it just through understanding what is the cause and what then. Thank you, Tuli.
Thank you very much, Zoe. You have touched on various aspects which for me are quite profound. And I think maybe as a follow-up question for you, you spoke about the fact that people need to build resilience. You also talked about the fact that people need to cultivate a skill where they get a strength from within. And you draw from your own experiences of what happened in the past I know as your close friend, you've gone through a lot for one human being. And I just found it quite profound that despite all the trials that you found yourself in, you were able to build yourself and move forward with a smile. And I guess it comes from this whole thing you spoke about of having a strength from within. Just give us an idea of how did you cultivate this? How did you manage to find this strength from within so that whoever is going through a difficulty can then tap on these skills that you are imparting so they themselves are then able to cultivate this and get the strength from within?
Thank you, Tuli. You know what? I believe in self-coaching. That what has helped me throughout. If I can put it in simple terms, self-coaching is about a process of guiding your own growth, your own development, and understanding what makes you tick. Because sometimes we forget. So self-coaching is about sometimes reflecting, as I've said. And what I want to stress as well is that you do this both in your professional and personal life. So self-coaching can be defined as something that is within you, when you can be able to reflect and coach yourself before even the next person tells you. You know what I do most of the days is to sit down and reflect on how my day has been. Were there any potholes? Is there something that I could have done better? Is there something that I've learned from my experiences? If you do that as a person, I'm telling you, you'll go a long way, both in your professional and personal life. And everyone has got that capacity to coach themselves. That means then you become more self-sufficient in this process as you do that. You then get to master this skill. It just starts with self-reflecting and understanding yourself. Then you've got it. Because I know I've got clients. Some people are afraid to look within because they don't like the picture they see. But I'm going to encourage you from today to start doing that. Be your own coach. And as coaches as well, I want to say we will also get coached by other people, but those work hand in hand. Thanks, Tuli.
Wow, so sure, there's a lot that we can learn from what you have just told us about the whole thing of resilience and just digging in deep and finding like reserves within there that will help you push to the next direction. KD, on your side, I know this is a topic that's very close to your heart, the whole thing around mental and emotional health. And I must say, as the flying coach, this is one lady that I tend to, when there are certain things that I find are boggling me down in terms of emotions. And she has a way of just being able to coach me through the process. So KD, run us through this. How do you cope with this whole issue of mental health?
Truly, I'm going to touch on a lot of things that Mrs. Zo has said. The first thing that she said was find the cause. And what people don't understand is sometimes the cause is not external factors, but it's just biological factors. And I said to you, I'm going to come on your platform and I'm going to speak very candidly and honestly about the issues around mental health. I have been diagnosed depressive. It gets worse when it's winter, so it's seasonal depression as well. So I'm a person that needs a lot of sunlight. So when Mrs. Zo said find the cause, for me for a very long time I thought I was just being lazy. I was unable to function. I was less than capable. Meanwhile, I simply just needed to go and find the cause, which was diagnosed, which was a very external but internal factor. Also, then went on to say self-coach. Now, when people say self-coach, they almost seem to be saying, listen to motivational speakers and suddenly develop a resilience that is inherent. Sometimes resilience isn't inherent. Sometimes resilience is very much going on medication. That is self-coaching for me, was realizing that I may not cope without medication. But as Sizo said, it is very within your reach and within your capabilities. And there are some things that, with or without medication, I have to do in terms of self-coaching. One of them is, before people get to work, before people get to engage with the world, I need to make sure that when the alarm clock goes off, I get on my feet. And that is because it is very easy to become your diagnosis and to own it instead of carrying it. Those are two different things. I no longer am my diagnosis. I am a person that lives with the diagnosis, but I am learning to carry it with me and see what I do about it. And one of the things, when the alarm clock goes off, I get on my feet. Otherwise, it's easy for me to feel sorry for myself and keep sleeping. And the second thing that I do is, you hear from motivational speakers things such as let the light in. And you wonder, what do they mean? What light? What are they talking about? I literally have to let the light in. I open my curtains. I open my windows so that the freshness of outside goes into inside. And so that I do not hold myself up in what is comfortable. And what's comfortable for me is a dark space, is an alone space, where unfortunately my thoughts loop into a situation where I'm so anxious I can't even get out of bed. So I get on my feet, I open my windows and curtains, and I let the light in. The next thing that I do is I hop into some sort of water, whether it's a shower or whether it's a bath. And for me, psychologically, it says I'm cleansing whatever it was that I was carrying yesterday. I'm walking into a new day. Told myself psychologically that is what it's going to mean to me to get. Then I get dressed. And I get dressed, I work from home, but I get dressed as if I'm going to an office, because it's important for my mind to function in different spaces. I'm one woman, I'm 5 different things. I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, and I'm a businesswoman. So to divide myself into 5 people and show up as a whole in all those people requires me to get dressed in a way that takes my day seriously. And then the last thing that I do is I allow positivity to shine. And for me, it's sometimes literally a chanting of, it's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day. It's very easy for my mind to loop into a day of doom and gloom and anticipating the worst, because that unfortunately is the way my mind functions. I need to kick my mind out of that functioning space by almost chanting, today is a brand new day. And I needed to share these steps in as practical a way as possible, because we always hear people saying things very holistically without saying, number 1, I do, number 2, I do, number 3, I do. And perhaps somebody somewhere is going to say, you know what, let me try this 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have a showing up before I show up. And the first showing up is to show up for myself.
Sure, Ketiwe. You really have covered quite a number of things that as human beings, we never really think about. I've never really thought about trying to find the cause. And you and Sizo have really spoken about this in different aspects of finding the cause. Yours was about saying, I don't want to be defined by this thing. I want to live with this thing, but and still be able to function, which is quite a profound thing, because a lot of us carry these labels that then tend to limit us in terms of what we need to do. And what you are saying is, own the label, but don't let the label define you. Live despite this label. And I also really liked the whole practical aspect of it. I mean, you take it for granted. Just stand up. When you wake up in the morning, get out of bed. Some of us actually remain in bed, and then we wallow and wallow and wallow until eventually it consumes us, and therefore we're no longer able to do that. I, for one, am definitely going to be doing that now. When the alarm goes off, jump out of bed. And I also like the whole thing, let the light in. And it's quite amazing what happens when you let the light in. Even the positivity that we're talking about, the chanting, it will not be possible if the light is not in. So really, Kethiwe, thank you very much for all of those. You've given us food for thought, and I'm hoping that our viewers are going to take these practical steps that Kethiwe has given us and really use them in your own life. Dr. Ella, over to you, my sister. How do you deal with this aspect?
Yeah, I'm very glad that you brought this topic forward, because it's very, very important, especially in our day-to-day lives. And showing up is a very multi-layered topic. And Kethiwe touched on the one element, which is about showing up for yourself and how you show up for yourself. Then there's the aspect of how you show up to the world. And then there's also the aspect of how you show up for the world, that is the people around us. And your mental state definitely influences how that sort of unpacks itself and how that impacts you and others. But the reason why it's so important and why I'm very happy that you brought it forward is because it does impact our quality of life overall. It impacts as I have alluded earlier, it impacts my quality of life, but it impacts the quality of life of my children, because my mental state sort of exerts energy outside and the way that I treat others. And if I can't be happy and I'm in a constant state of depression, then I definitely cannot show up as my best and authentic self. So I can't really be me. And the inner sort of battle, because there's always this inner battle. Mental health is very much about the conversations that we have with ourselves and other forces that are unknown, which are negative forces, which Kethiwe has very much alluded to, because when she talks about positivity, it's about positivity and about light. It's about bringing in other forces that influence the way that you become, the way that you show up. So if one is in that constant depressive state, it very much impacts those who are around you, but it also impacts your social environment. And it's an inward out and an outward in sort of situation, because the social environment also impacts how you show up. And that's why I say it's a very, very complex, multi-layered topic, which I'm very, very happy that we're dealing with today. But not only your social environment, but also your work environment. And I'm alluding to these because they very much speak to what I then was motivated to write about in the book Perfect Landing, Wrong Airports, which is about how the corporate world really impacted how I showed up as an individual. It did impact how I showed up and how I did eventually show up as an individual in the corporate world, and how it affected my performance, because your mental health and your mental state definitely also impacts how you perform. It definitely, because you can talk yourself down into a state of incompetence because of your mental state, and then it will impact your creativity, but it also impacts your confidence, how you show up. Because with some people, we might have the capabilities and the skills, but sometimes the issue is not really around what we know. it's how we present it. And that's impacted by our mental states. So that's why I really love the way Zoe and Ketiwe really spoke to the self-coach, because self-coaching is about talking to yourself and affirming, which is what Ketiwe does, reaffirming, those affirmation statements that you engage in on a daily basis before you go out into the world. And I remember saying that with myself, I also have a statement that I lean towards on a daily basis, which is, I am elegance. I am the daughter of the Most High God, and everything I touch turns to gold. So when you say that and you keep that in mind, even when you are in a state where you have challenges within the workplace, that chant that Uketi was referring to plays itself back. It plays itself back, and then you're like, then you become more resilient, and then you stand up to the plate. So it helps to get to that strong mental state that enables you to build resilience. And building resilience is very much a very good foundation in terms of enabling you to withstand all the challenges. Because as you rightfully said in your introduction, Tuli, I always say that many individuals out there in the world are the walking wounded. We are the walking wounded. The world is full of people who are the walking wounded. So when we translate it into IsiXhosa, so we say so there are a lot of people who are the walking wounded, and then there's this very, 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 very tough and very it's like a job where you have to walk around with this mask, trying to show up as somebody else. Showing up as somebody else is that mask, which is very, very difficult and very, very emotionally taxing, and it becomes a cycle in terms of your mental state of being. Hi there, Ntokozo.
Hello.
And then just in terms of how I've coped, I also write about it in the book Perfect Landing, Wrong Airports, which is about showing up for myself in a different way. The first step, as the ladies have alluded to, I've always spoken about introspection. They've spoken about it differently. Introspection, and being real with yourself. You can't be, you have to be honest with yourself. But as human beings, we try so much to bandage and say, oh no, it's because of that and because of that. So that initial introspection and self-reflection is so important, because it's important for you to be able to fix your problem, in inverted commas, to try and fix the problem. And then secondly, taking accountability and being really the CEO of your being, of yourself, and saying, there's certain aspects in my life that I could have done better. I could have made a good decision here, and I could have made another good decision there. But with that being said, in the same breath, I always say very, very important. And I did that by looking at myself in the mirror, Ketiwe, like, that's an affirmation, and saying to myself 100 times, deliberately and intentionally, Ella Ford Mthethwa, forgive myself. You have to get to a point where you forgive yourself. So that's what I've done. I've coped by forgiving myself, and then building on that, because rebuilding is very much starts from a foundation of truth.
Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah.
They always say truth to power. It starts from a foundation of truth.
Thank you.
I have a long list of things that I've done.
I know.
We can talk about them as time progresses.
Yeah, Dr. Ella, really, you've touched on quite a number of aspects. But what I really liked about what you said And we all say it, and I don't actually think we understand what it means. You can't pour from an empty cup. If you are not in the right state of mind, you are not going to be a good person for those that are around you. It does not only affect you, it affects your family, it affects other aspects of your life, your social aspects of your life. It also affects you in the work environment. And I like that all of you seem to be talking about the same thing, and that's about these affirmations, waking up, identifying it for what it is. Without going any further, I would like to introduce another dear friend of mine, Ntokozo. Hi, thank you for
Hello,
joining us.
everyone.
If you can just
Hello.
introduce yourself. By the way, guys, Ntokozo, as I say, is one of those that has been an integral part of my life, an amazing baker. I'm not going to be wasting time trying to introduce her. She will introduce herself. Ntogo, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Hi, guys.
Hello, Ntokozo.
Igama lami uNtokozo Duma. I'm in the South Coast, Komakuta. As Tuli said, I'm a baker, self-taught. So I do a lot of other things. I'm a designer by professional, but I'm also a baker. I'm also a full-time student. So yeah, that's me. I'm a mother as well.
Sure, Ntokozo, you know what? You are one of those for me. I admire a lot. Having to juggle all of these things all in one is bound to have an impact in terms of your emotional health. So how do you cope?
Yeah.
What are your coping mechanisms?
Wow. You know what, Tuli? It's very difficult. I'm not gonna say, but what helped me cope is I sort of I'm not sure whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I get into a zone. You know, I think you have noticed, I don't participate much in group chats and things like that. It's not my forte as such. It's not something that I'm not out there. You know, I keep to myself, and it sort of helped me as well to concentrate. You know, I zone in and I focus and I keep my head right there, because I feel good if I find myself in such a difficult space, it helps if I focus on one thing at a time and not be everywhere, you know. And it might not be necessarily a good thing, because maybe, like you were saying, Ella, I might neglect some people around me, but it's not intentional. It's a coping mechanism for myself. I can't be everywhere, and I feel I can't give much at that particular time. So I rather spend my energy on something that I can control, you know, a small chunk that I have some kind of control over, and make sure that I do what I need to do and I do it properly. So yeah, I can't be everywhere. I'm an introvert in a way, and I'm very private. So it helps me with coping as well, not to be out there. You know, somebody else might interpret that to say I'm antisocial, but it's not that. It's the way I cope, you know, with all of these things that I'm facing in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Ntokozo, some of us get overwhelmed by multiple things that we actually stop doing, and we end up not actually doing what we need to do. And you've actually touched on an aspect that is quite an important one, and that is when you are overwhelmed, to gain control, just focus on one thing. And it's amazing what focusing on that one thing then does in terms of helping you regain that control, so that you are then able to cope with other aspects when they come your way. So I would not actually call it a weakness, Ntokozo. I would call it an amazing self-awareness. And that brings us to the next topic of for you to be able to deal with the stressors in life, you need to be self-aware, But how do you build this self-awareness? KD, I will start with you. And just to understand, what aspects do you tap into to talk to what Ntokozo was talking about? The fact that when she realizes that she's overwhelmed, she finds that the things that center her is if she pulls herself together by just focusing on one thing. And by doing so, she's then able to cope with other aspects of her life. So talk to us about self-awareness, Ketiwe.
Once again, I'm going to be talking about it in very practical terms. And Tuli, you usually say, I come with such good advice. Today, I'm here to declare that advice is stolen. It's stolen from many therapy sessions. And I share.
Usbar, we both know who Sbari is. Yeah, let's continue, Katie.
And I across a number of people. I talked to a number of people, and not probably with the exception of Zoe, because I've recently just met. Siyazi ukuthi siya private message lana Tina Songe when things get tough for me. But to return to what Ntogo has said, self-awareness. I have learned through, like I'm saying, many therapy sessions that I get overwhelmed sometimes by the absolute non-existent and unknown. So I work myself up to a frenzy with things I cannot control. What I have learned to do during those times is to be still. When I say be still, Tuli will know what I'm talking about. I listen to a lot of music. Through music, I'm not even listening to the lyrics or tune, or I am following the lyrics in my head so that I zone everything else out and just focus on something that is outside. The lyrics may be talking about love or friendship or funny or whatever it is. I'm just concentrating on this line by line by line, because I too, like Ntokozo, need to be still and zone out and zone into something that will make for me a surrounding of a state of calm. I stay away from social media. It's too engaging. It brings about topics for me that I internalize unnecessarily. People whose house is flooded somewhere, no matter how much I think about it, unless I have shoes or blankets to go and donate to that area, will not help my day, because all it does is just make it harder. I internalize a lot of people's stressors just because of the nature of the person that I am. Sitting still and zoning out of social media, and sometimes even interacting, like Ntogo was saying, on things like WhatsApp, so that I'm not engaging with anything, but just being still helps me a lot. Another thing that I do is I tap on to the very ladies that are here on this platform. I love laughing, and I know that a phone call to any of them is going to leave me in stitches. Therefore, I tap into people who are going to carry me outside the zone that I have worked myself into a frenzy being. That, by the way, I cannot control, because my mind lives in a state of anticipation. So when I tap into that self-awareness of the things that I cannot control within myself has allowed me to put tools around myself that hold me still, return me to my original state of being. My original state of being is not a nervous, anxious, depressive. My normal state of being is what Ella said, a child of God, of the Most High. It just so happened that my mind works differently. So I sit still, like Ntokozo, and tap into the tools that I have to take me back to myself.
So, guys, this is quite deep. Be still. And a lot of us sing the song, be still and know that I'm God, but we actually forget what it means. And it's exactly what Ntokozo and Katie have spoken to. Focus on one thing, be still, so that you are able to cope with others. Hey, you know what, Ketwe? I think I need to use your advice of staying away from social media, because it's actually quite amazing how you absorb a lot of things that get told, that get sent your way. And unfortunately, these days, social media has become fake. So we're always living up to this ideal that none of us can ever meet. And what happens? We depress ourselves because we can't meet those ideals. So I think that's an advice that I think is an important one. You also spoke to the fact that you need to surround yourself with people that are going to bring positivity.
Yeah.
So if you wake up in the morning, think about those people that are in your life. And think about the role that they play in their life, in your life. Are they going to bring you positivity? If they are, those are people you hold on to, because they will help you in terms of coping, and they will help you in terms of ensuring that you are happy. And when you are happy, you show up the best way possible.
There's somewhere that I read, sorry, just to add a little bit, not to monopolize space. There's somewhere that I read that said, stay close to people who feel like sunshine.
Oh, wow.
That's what I've chosen.
That is powerful.
Stay close to people who feel like sunshine. Yeah.
Mazo, how do you build self-awareness in your space?
Hello to you. You know what? I've been listening to Ndokozo and Kat, as I fondly call her. When I look at self-awareness, I want to just say, sometimes what happens to us as people is that there's sometimes a mismatch between our intentions and how we ultimately then actually show up in the world. And that could be influenced by what we didn't anticipate. However, if we are a person that does that self-reflection, then you are able to identify those instances and we are able to self-correct. Ne? So self-awareness then is about identifying those gaps. And these can be done by simple, just maybe having an exercise that says, I'm going to show up today. Today, I want to impress. Today, I want to just bring my authentic self. Today, I'm just about gratitude. So when you do all of those things, what are the actions that you are going to show today? How are you going to show up? It does not end there. Then, which means in these different situations throughout the week, after you've reflected, you know exactly how you want to show up. It could be that today I had an issue with Tuli, but now how am I going to show up on Tuesday so that I'm on the right track with Tuli? So which means now your intentions must be in line with what you want to achieve by going to Tuli and talk to her maybe that particular morning. But you won't be able to do all of those if you don't self-reflect. Again, what I would like to say on self-awareness, it is also about becoming mindful of the type of voices that inhabit your mind or behaviors that may be contrary to your goal. How do you want to show up? Then once those thoughts that go through you, whether maybe it's self-doubt or whatever, remember, how did you say you want to show up today? That then will carry you through that entire day. And what I would like to just share, like Uketwe did, just a few steps of how you can self-coach yourself through this self-awareness journey. What you need to do, I'm just going to give you a few steps of what you can do. You need to find out at what moment does my self-doubt creep in? Number one, when do I feel most energized? And during that time, what do I do then to make sure that I show up? Who could give me? Thirdly, you can even say, who give me insights I need to tackle the issue I'm facing? I like reflection. She could identify that there's part in her journey of life, because that's a journey, my dear. It's not an end. I want people to remember that. Who can then be supportive? Who can help her? She spoke about her therapist. She spoke about the friends that are surrounding her. Again, fourthly, I want to say, how can I then receive more feedback on a regular basis? On this, I want to say, choose those carefully, because they are going to be part of your journey. Just be cognizant of the fact that they can also derail your journey. That's why I'm saying choose those people carefully. The people that are going to be honest, the people that are going to not shy away from praising you when you are doing good. That is very important in this journey. Again, I want to say, what is not currently working for me? That is part of self-awareness and self-correcting as well. What is not currently working for me that I'm doing, and what am I going to do about it? Put it into little things that you want to achieve that actually make you go past that hurdle. You can have a diary. That diary must have those little steps and stick to it. So that says to you now, in my life, this is what I want to achieve in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months. So if you don't self-reflect and you are not self-aware, you won't be able to ask these questions.
Sure.
And you are not truthful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tuli.
So, Shane, you have really covered quite a number of aspects. You spoke about that mismatch, a mismatch in between your intentions and how you want to show up. And that being self-aware is about identifying that gap and saying, how are you going to fill that gap? And thank you so much, Zoe, for those practical steps that you took us through. They are simple, but they will take us far. Just to recap, you spoke about, at what moment does my self-doubt creep in? That's about self-reflecting and saying, when do I start self-doubting? And once you identify that moment, it's therefore easier for you to then come up with a practical solutions. You spoke about, when do I feel most energized? We take that for granted. Yet when you are energized, you are at your best. And when you start tapping onto those skills that you utilize to enable you to then move forward, that state of being energized is probably where you need to start at. I liked also what you spoke about when you spoke about the insights that you need and who are these people that are going to provide these insights. And lastly, talking about, where do I receive the most honest feedback, and being very careful in terms of the people you let into your life, because those people are going to determine the trajectory your life is going to take. That was quite profound. Ntokozo,
Thank
Sisi. Let's go back to you, sis. You spoke about the fact that when you are overwhelmed, you just focus on one thing. Tell us more. What are your other coping mechanisms? How do you build this whole thing of self-awareness? Let me unmute you, Ntogo. Okay, let's go for it.
Okay. What also helps, Tuli, is I put things on paper, you know. Then it's easy to track myself and also recheck my feelings, you know, to see for the week. Like I say, I have to take small chunks at a time. So I know what I need to do for the week. And it helps to write it and paste it on the wall. Then every morning I see it. Then I don't have to worry about anything else. I just need to zone in on that one particular thing. There are little things on the side as well, but at least my energy, I know this is where my energy will go. Then I can tick as well. It helps me. I like ticking. I know for the week I was able to achieve this. Yeah, man. So at any time, I know exactly where I am. I know exactly what I need to do. And I have to dig in and see the triggers along the way. What are the causes of these triggers? Because yeah, as much as I know what needs to be done, there are triggers along the way. So I need to be self-aware as well. How did those come about? Like Uzolega said, you know, what triggered those things for me and how to deal with those. So it helps every day to have a reminder of some sort of where we are going, you know. It doesn't matter how short the distance, as long as there's a plan of going somewhere. That just keeps me grounded and focused. Yeah.
Yo, Ntokozo, you know, I've never actually thought of this. Just put it down in writing and place it on the wall so that it's the first thing that you see and it refocuses you.
Yeah.
Such a simple yet practical way of dealing with key issues. Another thing that I really liked, you know, we are visual people. And every time you tick, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. Come end of the week and you see all these ticks, you are like, oh my word, I have achieved.
I've done
if it's in your head, if it's in your head, you don't see it. Yeah. So guys, there you go. Yeah. Just talk things that you would like to achieve. Place them where you can see them. Tick when you have achieved. And it just makes that shift in terms of my mindset, and it helps you get to things. You also, like Zoe and Katie, we spoke about triggers, about being aware of what those triggers are, and make sure that you find ways of coping with those triggers. I like what I'm getting here, guys. I'm getting so excited. Dr. Ella, let's go to you. How do you go about achieving this self-awareness?
Thank you for that question, Tuli, and thank you so much, ladies, for your inputs. Ntokozo, I really love the fact that you've reminded us of the importance and the power of the visual. Because in the past, every year, I used to have a vision board. And I promise you that I used to put together every, December or January. And I promise you, I achieved a lot more that way. And I'm definitely going to go back to that. And I always say that in the last vision board, I put Beyonce at the center. And in this one, I'm putting myself at the center. Because that's how you want to show up. You want to show up as the best version of yourself. So in terms of just self-awareness, the ladies have really touched on a lot, on various very important factors. But what I love about that is that it very much speaks to what I'm also aligned to, in the sense that self-awareness is very, 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 very important. And for me, it's a sign of maturity. because it's not just self-awareness that is just about how I see myself, but it also means that I also have to be a courageous listener. I have to be a courageous listener and be able to take in what others reflect, or the feedback that others give to me as if though alluded. Because then it means that I can get the truth. I can be real with myself. I can get the truth. And when I built from a foundation that is really strong, because I've been able to identify those gaps, the real gaps, not the gaps that I feel, that are sugar-coated. Because those sugar-coated gaps build a very weak foundation that will break very easily when I am challenged. For me, I've had several coping mechanisms over the years, which I relate to also in the book, which is about, the first one is that I really, really think it's important for me to find my happy space. Because when I find my happy space, I'm able to take charge. Because when you take charge, you're able to build your confidence again. And people know that I love living a healthy lifestyle. Is part of it. It's part of taking charge and taking charge of me and being the true CEO of my body. So living a healthy lifestyle in terms of going to the gym and exercising and also building a strong mind, because we know that, we've spoken about the basics, getting back to basics in terms of living a healthy lifestyle. And just getting the blood flowing and oxygen going into your brain again, and nourishing the brain and feeding the brain enables one to improve one's mental health and to build a strong arsenal for those challenging times. So for me, that's my happy space. Another place which is my happy space is very much around traveling. For me, traveling and going to other countries and other spaces is very energizing, because I build energy from evolving, newness, if I can use that word, newness, adventure, and seeing how other people live, and newness for me is very it really boosts my creativity and gets my mind refreshed and going. But it also builds a new appreciation for what I have, because we always say it's not, what is it? It's not cheesy, but we always, when we get back on that plane coming back to South Africa, most of us appreciate what we have. So it builds a new appreciation for what we have. Very, very important, which the ladies have also alluded to, in terms of who you surround yourself with. I've been very intentional in the last few years in terms of detoxing the people that bring negativity into my life. So for me, that's been part of a very important journey. Not an easy one, because some people come into your life because they want to benefit from you, and they cling onto you because of what they believe they will gain from you. And it's very, very difficult. And it's very difficult for you to detach yourself from those people, whether it's in terms of finances, your skills. And there's always that inner core. My mom used to call it uthi nwai. There's that inner core, that intuition that tells you this person is not here for the right intentions. But as human beings, it takes up time. So I've been very intentional in the last few years. Who truly knows? In terms of detoxing and just creating a motivating environment for me. Then two more. First one, second to last one is religion. For me, religion is very, very grounding. It's a space that gives me hope. Because when there's hope, then hope builds your faith, which is another builds your faith. And when one has faith, there's sort of like a manifestation in terms of positivity, because your energy and your focus is very much aligned to what you need to achieve, and you actually do achieve that. Who would have known that in the last few weeks I personally would have been in one of the biggest stages, BRICS stage. I never in my wildest dreams, but I articulated it with my mouth. And I was like, I would love to go and be part of this whole BRICS conversation. And there I was. And God didn't just put me.
He showed
one
he showed up.
attendees. God said, Hamba, Uyamapambi, go and stand and moderate and be part of the conversation and drive the conversation. Then the last one is for me, giving back. Giving back, guys. Giving back for me is takes me to a happy place. And I've taught myself a very good lesson in terms of give back without expecting too much back, because people will disappoint you. People will disappoint you. So give back for the sake of giving and just seeing those smiles and people appreciate. That's my happy space. So very important. For what was very important for me is understanding what it is that drives me, what it is that takes me, that motivates me, so that so that I can achieve my goals and be a happy person, a happy individual, and that I show up as just me, show up as a happy person who wants to make others also happy.
Hey, Yabona Hlobo, when you speak, I can just see the passion with which you speak. And you've covered quite profound topics. I mean, whoever thinks when you listen, you need to be a courageous listener.
Yeah.
I mean, we take all of those things for granted, because when you listen, actually, there are certain things that you might hear about yourself, right? So you need to have that element of courage for you to then be able to be a courageous listener. Finding your happy space. Where is your happy space, good people? And tapping onto that, Dr. Ella has said her happy space is in different aspects. Exercise. I mean, the elegance aspect of it, part of that of the pillars of elegance is physical wellness. So what is that happy space? Traveling. Guys, by the way, traveling doesn't mean sometimes getting onto a plane and going to foreign lands. Exploring your own neighborhood, going to places that you've never been to before, brings that element of newness. And that newness teaches you other aspects that you might not have tapped into. And then the last one, you've said a lot, Hlobo. I do not want to take away from what you have said, but the one thing that stood out for me is that whole thing around detoxing. How often do we detox from people that are not adding value to our lives? And I love that you've spoken to those, because then it brings us to the last aspect that I want to deal with on this segment, because good people who are still going to continue. There is a lot, but time is not on our side. And I really, really sometimes don't like it when this happens. Let's talk now about, when you talk about detoxing, it comes with setting a certain level of boundaries, right? So how do you set boundaries? How do you set these boundaries? I'll start with you, Ndogo. How do you set boundaries?
Yeah. So, Tony, that is a very tough one. Sure. Mina, I withdraw. I easily withdraw. If I feel that space is not serving me in any way, silently, I withdraw, and because sometimes it's even not worth engaging.
Oh, wow.
Because of the toxicity of the situation, of the person, of the space. So you don't even want to engage on that level. So sometimes for me, quietly, I will withdraw. Usuzoyifundela kwezakho ukuthi okay,
what happened? Why?
What happened? Yes, because one or the other, like you said, we need to find a way to protect ourselves, and sometimes the people that we find ourselves engaging with sometimes are very there's a word I'm looking for. I can't remember it now, but Banjan, they are big on words sometimes, you know, and sometimes you don't even have the words to express how they make you feel, you know, and you know, sometimes on another level, they won't even get it, you know, because they're operating also with their own intentions, you know, so they might not really even understand and get where you come from, you know. So for me, boundaries, it's a very tricky one, especially when it comes, because it's not only about friends, there's family involved as well, you know.
Yes.
You can't
Yes.
get rid of them, unfortunately, but you have to find a way to navigate around that, because one way or the other, you need each other. At the end of the day, you are family, you know. But it's very advisable to take yourself away from certain situations.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to comment all the time there's a family meeting. You can just be a listener, you know, but you don't have to
Yes.
actively participate,
Yeah.
you know, especially when you feel it's a subject really that you feel strongly about, or it's something that you don't believe in, or it's against your belief or whatever. So sometimes you can just be a passive participant. There's nothing wrong with that.
Ngizwile. No, Ngizwile Khethu. I do not need to be told anymore. Yeah, you and Ntokozo, you've covered. Sometimes actually drawing is the best form of communication. And we do not realize that it's the best way to set boundaries. Just withdraw. And you also spoke about
Just
something
withdraw.
that I found quite, some of us are attempted, that's why Uketwa is warning me, to comment. And then we open our mouth and we dig ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper into this hole. By the time you get out of it, you are like, Cindy, how did I get myself into this hole? I have been one of those that have been found. Yo, guys, I can tell you a story about how I have opened my mouth and dug myself deeper and deeper and deeper. You don't have to comment sometimes.
No,
Time to just
you
withdraw
don't have to,
and
just
not
listen.
engage at all.
Yes.
Be a passive listener.
Yes.
Ngizwile Ntokozo, I heard loud and clear. Loud and clear. While Uketwa is busy killing herself laughing this side, I'm going to hand over to Auntie Zo. Zozo, my friend, how do you set boundaries? How do you set boundaries?
Actually?
Yeah, can you hear us, Zo? Setting boundaries.
Yes, yes. Okay, my dear. I lost you there for a moment.
Yeah.
You know, Tuli, as Ntokozo was talking, I was actually laughing. You know why? As people, we want to set boundaries sometimes, and we fail ourselves by thinking that, what are people going to say? That's what I want to mention first before I go to anything. Because for me, setting boundaries is for your own space, safe space, and mental health. It's not about anyone else. Don't feel like people are going to see you as a person who is maybe not friendly and you are socially maybe uncomfortable. No, it's just your space, and that is how you cope with life. So, and what I want to add is to say, setting boundaries and people not respecting those boundaries, they need to know. Sometimes we fail ourselves, as I said, by keeping quiet. Just now, on a professional level, I want to say, I always say, you know, as a leader and a person in HR, maybe, when you are at that level, it's about showing up as a leader. Showing up as a leader that has got integrity. So if you don't draw boundaries, you fail yourself, because you get to see yourself being a part of muddy situations, if I can put it, muddy situations. where now you don't draw that line. Remember, before you were a leader, or before maybe you're a leader that is leading an organization, being in HR, you were an employee, you had friends. However, when you get to that level, there must be now a line. I always say there's a thin line between now becoming friends in so much that you fail in fulfilling your role. And you only achieve that level of thinking if you self-reflect and understand your goal. Why are you here? Some people just accept the title, but not the role. There's a difference. So another thing that I want to mention as well is saying no. I know some of us are really struggling to say no, but drawing boundaries come with you saying no and being comfortable with saying no. Because you can't be everywhere and you can't allow everything. Even in relationships, sometimes some of my clients have left their relationships unattended by not saying no. So no goes a long way. That is how I also draw boundaries for myself in my relationships, family, home. You must have boundaries.
Yeah.
That's what helps me navigate life. Thank you, Tuli.
Sure. So, yeah, ne? Sometimes when people push your boundaries that you have set, it's okay to open your mouth and say no.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are afraid to say that. And what happens is that we develop resentments, and the resentments spiral into something that's worse than where we go. So it's very important when you set your boundaries, people respect and you hold them accountable to respecting those boundaries. I also like the fact that the ability to say no and be comfortable with saying it. This is something I learned the hard way, but gosh, the day I learned to say no was the day that liberated me forever. So saying no and being able to become and being comfortable with saying no takes us a long way. So yeah, Zosiyabonga on that part. Dr. Ella, what do you have to say on this one? How do you set boundaries? I get in a sobabili, we know. Setting boundaries is sometimes needed, nah?
Yes, but it took us a while.
It took us a while.
So yeah, so I mean, I'm going to start with that declaration that, like, my sisters have indicated, setting boundaries hasn't been easy. I personally haven't been good at it, whether it's been, with my in-laws, wink, wink, or with, with friends, and so on and so on. Setting boundaries hasn't been easy because of the fear of, what is it, of sometimes not being culturally correct. We are in certain, because of so there are certain biases, cultural biases, that sometimes affect our quest to set boundaries. So that's the first thing. But we've had to learn very quickly that setting boundaries is very much about what Zo said, which is about self-protection. It's about valuing ourselves. It's about protecting ourselves. Oprah used to always refer to the disease to please. That's another aspect. So there's a tension between that kind of elements that I spoke about earlier, and the disease to please, and that also comes with the level that we're at in terms of self-worth. Because sometimes when a person is not really confident, they have lacking in self-confidence, and their self-worth is very low, you then tend to seek validation from outside which means that you want to be praised and you want to keep on hearing, hey, thank you so much, you're the best, all of that. And then there's that disease to please, and you say yes, yes, and yes. And that also takes time. I mean, as one builds resilience and you build the confidence, it then you consciously have to work on that. Otherwise, you work yourself into a frenzy and it becomes a spiral, and then you get into a stage where your mental health is not, your mental state is not really good because you're trying to do too much. Then you reach burnout because you're trying to please everyone. So learning to say no is very important. But the setting boundaries is also comes in different aspects. It's also multi-layered, because even within corporates, I always say that people will treat you the way that you let them treat you to a certain extent.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
True.
Even in the space and in spaces that
Yeah.
you need to set boundaries. In spaces where people are racists, for example, and they give you the menial tasks, and they say whatever they want to say to you. I always say you need to correct them, and you have to correct them fast. You have to deal with them timelessly. So, for example, in corporates, this white lady comes to me and she says she's working on a project and she learns these new terms. And she comes to me and she says, you are a yellow bone.
Yo.
I needed to deal with her timelessly and in the moment. So we need to, when you set boundaries, you need to correct in the moment. That's why I say do it timelessly, so that it doesn't progress and allow the person to think that it's okay. The person has to need to understand that it's okay. 2 more points. You have to be, firstly, before you enforce these, you have to be clear yourself in terms of what your boundaries are. It comes to self-awareness. You clear yourself, these are my boundaries. I won't take X, Y, and Z. And then finally, be consistent.
Oh, yeah.
Be consistent. You can't be blue today and black when it comes to certain instances. You can't allow someone to say you're a yellow bone and show actions of being a yellow bone and joke about it the one day in the canteen and be upset when somebody else calls you a yellow bone. So you need to be clear. And I know someone like that. My sister Tsuri is very, very clear about her boundaries. So that's how I approach setting boundaries. And Gendogozo, I'm also not afraid to detox. Once I see that this person is has gone beyond, there are boundaries, but there are people who step over the boundaries, and those need to go.
Yo, lastly, KD, how do you set your boundaries? Ella spoke about the fact that this is multi-layered, then you are right, eh? And it's about correcting it at the moment so that it doesn't continue. Doing it. You also spoke about the fact that people treat you the way you allow them to treat you. So teach them from the word go how you'd like to be treated. And that on its own is actually your way of setting boundaries. KD, let's hear from you, Sisi.
I said, firstly, Priscilla, once again, I'd like to say thank you for this conversation. All these ladies have consulting practices that honestly they could charge for such advice. I mean, I've spent a good hour here for free. That therapy session in save 850 rand in the next week, because this has been amazing. I would like to start by Indo Esho Osizo, and I'm fully global saying but the thing is, she says things that hit the nail on the head for me. I set boundaries by learning from the best. I identify people who I can see are good at setting boundaries, and you'll be surprised to know that the person I have learned from the best in terms of setting boundaries is my daughter. Una 7. She's 7. She doesn't communicate very well because she's autistic, but there is no person whose decision is as permanent and unchanging, and whose no is as loud and unchanging as my daughter. I have learned to copy from the best. And as a reason, when Ella said you teach people how to treat you, I have great respect for a 7-year-old. I have the greatest respect for a 7-year-old. She taught me, one, to set boundaries by saying a clear and decisive no. Two, there's something else that my daughter does. When she says the no and you go against it, example, go give Mkhulu a hug. I don't want to. She's still okay. She's still saying it clearly and definitively. I do not respond well to her no, because I say again, go give Mkhulu a hug. She starts crying and she says, I don't want to. I say it the third time, you can see that her resolve is unfailed, but she is scared because she can see my reaction is not what she wants. She says it still, no. And she reminded me of something a lady called, because I write about history, a lady called Fatima Mir said as a quote that I held on to. She said, speak even when your voice shakes. My daughter has said it. My daughter has taught me to speak my truth and set boundaries even when my voice shakes. And the answer to your question, Tusile, simply, I copy from the best. That's how I learned to set my boundaries.
Oh, wow. Guys, time is really not on our side. And with these ladies, obviously, we're still going to continue tackling this topic of showing up. It has different aspects of it. We've just covered 3, which were quite profound and big. We spoke about issues of mental health and emotional health and how we tackle that one. They gave us tips that they have used on their side to deal with such issues. We also spoke to issues of self-awareness. How do we build this? And how do we ensure that we are developing skills that will help us in terms of this journey towards self-awareness? And then lastly, we tackled issues of setting boundaries, which are quite critical issues, because if you don't show set boundaries, you are impacting on your emotional well-being, and that impacts the way that you show up. So lastly, ladies, tell us, how do people get hold of you? If they wanted to utilize your services? We'll start with Dr. Ella. Dr. Ella, as I've indicated, viewers, she has written a book called Perfect Landing, Wrong Airport, and we'll be launching it, by the way, on the 26th of August. Be on the lookout on my channels for the invites that I'm going to be sending out. So, Dr. Ella, how do people get hold of you?
So I am on the socials. I'm available as Ella Ford Mtetwa on Facebook, so people can reach out to me on DMs. But I'm also available on WhatsApp. I'll give the number 07631266073. I'm also going to be participating at the Durban International Book Fair, so you can come along. It's going to be in Durban at Suncoast. You'll find me there. And as Uthuli has said, please watch out for our socials, for announcements on the socials, because we're definitely going to have an amazing launch, and we'd like to see you there on the 26th of August 2023. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Sibonge lapho, Dr. Ella. Thank you. You all heard where to get hold of her. Usizo, on the other hand, has her own consultancy. She does a lot of life coaching. She is a seasoned HR practitioner, so you will not be going wrong, people, by consulting her on various aspects of your own growth journey. So, Zo, if you can let people know where they can get hold of you.
Thank you, Tuli. People, thank you so much for being around us today. And I know you are going to continue watching this episode. You can get hold of me on my website, www.ehloboconsulting.com. And my email address, info consulting.za. I'm also available on WhatsApp. My number on WhatsApp, 311 6072. Thank you.
Thank you, Lapho Sizo. You all had where you can get hold of her. Ketiwe, as I'd indicated, is a seasoned writer. So she's written 2 books on South African history retold. Know Your History. You will correct me there, Ketiwe. And there's a sequel to that book that basically talks to women in history. And over and above that, she has developed a board game that I highly encourage all of you guys to play, again, on our own South African history. Ketiwe, how do people get hold of you?
Thank you, Shosile Ngiyabonga ithuba, and once again, thank you for having me on your platform. I hope it continues to grow. If you remember my name, it's the easiest thing to remember in terms of getting hold of me. You can get a hold of me on my website, ketiwezulu.com. You can get hold of me on my email, ketiwe@ketiwezulu.com. You can get a hold of me on my cell phone, 083 216 2570. And good luck to Celia on the platform. If it's anything to go by today, it's going to be helping a lot of people. And well done.
Thank you very much, Ketiwe. Untokozo, unfortunately, was kicked out due to technological issues, but we will get her back. Do not worry on our next segment. But Untokozo is from Cake Seduction, and I assure you people, when she talks about seduction, that's exactly what it is. These cakes she bakes seduce you into a lot of things. She is an amazing baker. So if you want to get hold of her, she is on Facebook as Ntokozo Duma, and on Instagram, her business is called Cake Seduction. Cake Seduction, it is one word, so look her up on Instagram. And if you want to get hold of her on WhatsApp, it's 063 787 1355. I repeat, 063 787 1355. You will not regret, please. She does cakes for all occasions, whether you have a christening, a wedding, or any other occasion. That is the person that you need to tap into. Guys, it has been such an amazing day for me, a massive learning, and I'm hoping you learned as much as I learned on this segment. As I indicated to you, this is just the start. We are going to be continuing with the next aspects that are really going to help you in terms of your journey towards a holistic wellness. Flying coach here, guys. I am hoping that you learned as much as I can, and this is me saying thank you and signing out.